Finance Director, budget discussion.
Absolutely. So for this one, I don't have many updates compared to the last time that we had met. I have provided you with an updated tax rate calculation sheet, which is available online. You'll notice that the cost per penny on the tax rate has increased from 60,000 to 61. That's due to the valuation of the town, the MS1 that was filed, and the anticipated 1.5% increase for next year. Other than that, we have reordered them to put them more in groups, I guess is the best way to put it. If you remember the last time, I think we had a couple capital reserves at the bottom, then some in the middle, some at the top. So we've essentially just reorganized those. One of the items that you wanted me to come back with was the cost regarding the firefighters. And if we were to do a 6-month, if we were to hire them July 1st, and if we were to hire them on January 1st. Without overtime, you are looking at about $351,144.25, which is about 5.8 cents on the tax rate. With overtime, and I took the average overtime for the past 3 years per firefighter, you're looking at about $422,000, which is about 6.9 cents on the tax rate. If you were to do all four for the full year, you're looking at $465,000 for no overtime, and that's 7.6 cents. If you were to do it with overtime, you're looking at $559,477, which is about 9.2 cents on the tax rate. And that is assuming a family plan for both dental and health insurance, as well as looking at their uniform allowance, short-term, long-term disability, as well as life insurance. NHRS, Medicare as well. The prosecutor.
Hold on.
Yep.
Questions on the firefighters? Please proceed.
All righty. The prosecutor, assuming the $95,000 that we had talked with as a salary, and again, assuming family plans for health insurance and dental, including all the additional items such as short-term, long-term, and life, insurance, FICA, and Medicare, you are looking at $162,024.11, which is about 2.7 cents on the tax rate based on the current estimations.
Questions?
Jumping back to the fire department for a minute, wouldn't we expect overtime not to increase because we're adding those positions, or would we expect an increase? Maybe that's a question for the fire chief.
That would be typically, I don't believe we, in warrant articles, we don't typically budget for overtime, but I believe that there was a request for me to include it in the last meeting.
Okay.
So that's why I included it, and I included it without it so everybody can kind of have the full picture because essentially they will go into the calculation, even if we don't budget for it in the warrant article, they will go into the calculation next year, and I want to make sure the public is aware that there is that potential impact going forward. But ideally, once you're fully staffed, and I don't want to speak for fire or police, ideally you'll see a downtick because you have the additional staffing.
So in other words, the average would go down. Even we're using today's average.
Correct.
And if we brought them on, the future average may be lower.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
But for budgeting purposes, you need to put it in just in case.
That will be up to you guys whether you want to include it or not. I wanted to make sure you guys had it available to you so you can make
He's
the
saying
decision.
he was asked the question to provide it.
Copy that.
Yep.
Yep, good, thanks.
Any questions on the prosecutor?
Says 162,000 all in.
That's loaded labor plus insurance.
Correct.
Family plan
It's-
insurance.
95.14 for the salary, and then 67.10 roughly, $67,010 for the benefits, which includes retirement, FICA, Medicare, all those insurances.
Any questions on the prosecutor? Let's say when they're doing it or not right now. No questions? Okay. All right. After the rather theatrical discussion that I caused with regards to the Lions Hall, we had the Councilor Butler and I met with some of the staff at the Lions Hall. I think everyone pretty much could agree that $3.5 million is off the table. The direction we asked the town manager to take and to seek and get us some answers on is what would it look like to try to put the building back in a working condition so that it can be shared and used by multiple organizations, as well as by the town, with the understanding that it would come out of under the control of the town manager's office. We talked about a number of 500,000. I don't know if it's the right or the wrong number. We had the right people in the room. We talked about how you would fix the floor with a foundation. I don't remember the exact words we used, but there's a way to actually fill the floor so that it would be stabilized going out into the future, which would stabilize the building. We asked them to go out and look at an electrical contractor to see where do we stand with electricity. We asked them to rope off the second floor so that we can avoid ADA at this time. And we asked the fire department I kind of noticed today, the fire department had a vendor in there today to look at the building for capacity of 99 and below. So if we go over 100, we got to put a sprinkler in. So we don't have any firm numbers yet. Hopefully we'll have them by the next meeting. What we explained to them at the meeting is that we have to have some sort of an idea here before the end of December, or what you're looking at is mothballing the building for 2 years. Because we're not going to go to the voters with $3.5 million. And because we can't really put that in front of them and put complete justification there for it. So, because if we don't move on it now, we got to make sure the building's good for another 2 years, not being used. There's a lot of moving pieces. We may decide to do one part and not the other part, but we still need more answers. So let's give you an update on the Lions Hall from what we've been able to discover so far. Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't miss anything, no.
No, they may come back and say it's 250. They may come back and say it's 800. We just don't know yet. So that's on the Lions Hall. What else did we promise answers on here, sir?
That was all you guys asked me for.
I'm looking for you to help me recollect.
Oh,
God, Johnny.
John, may I ask, in your discussion that you had on the Lions Hall, was it also discussed about handicap accessibility for the bathrooms?
We talked about redoing the bathrooms. Nick was there. He told us what we had to do by code. We looked at the back ramp. What do we have to do there? Everybody got there were half a dozen assignments, and the town manager authorized the assignments to be done, and we're waiting on answers.
Could I speak on this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you
Yeah.
mind?
Tell me what I didn't recollect.
No.
Hey, we don't have
First
blow
of-
dryer problems, so we.
Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I lost it in high school, kid. No problem. With regards to the Lions Hall, some people want to rip down, some people want to keep it. I personally would like to keep it, but I'm going to listen to what the people have to say. I asked John when we were going through this, why was the Lions Hall shut down in the first place? What was it? And the only reason why that Lions Hall was shut down was because of the failure of the floor. Now, I was part of that original fix on the floor. The intent on the floor was not to have 300 people on the floor. When we had the elections with the presidential elections, Trump came in, what do we have, 300 people?
Probably
plus
close to that.
TV and stands, and when Kevin Smith ran for governor, same thing. So that's what started the failure on the floor. That's why we closed it. We didn't close it because of the electrical, although I'm sure it needs to be updated. We didn't close it because of the roof was leaking. We didn't close it because of the heating system. Do they all need to be updated? Yeah, they do. But the reason why we closed it was because of the floor. So, in my opinion, to open it back up, fix the floor. That's the minimum that we have to do. As far as the ADA goes, there were some people that say that the ADA Act is not law. it is law. That's misinformation. It is law. Now, if you look at it in that reg, I've had experience with it with the public transportation system in Massachusetts, so I know a little bit about it. I can tell you, if you look into it, when it comes to municipalities, there was a comment made that we don't have to follow it. That's wrong. Municipalities, both state and local, have to follow regs. Now, when you start looking into the regs, because we have to fix the ramp, we have to fix the bathroom. There's provisions in there, and I haven't read into it, but there are provisions in there that gives you some leeway on historic buildings. So, you know, my attitude is let's fix the floor. Let's live with what we've got now. As far as the ADA, we do have a bathroom that we considered ADA. Let's take a look at that, see what we can do. And the same thing with the ramp out back. It may not be perfect, but I think understanding the relationship of the building and the historical value and the fact that it's there, I think there are some exceptions. There could be some minor adjustments. I think that, and I want to clarify this, is when we sent Dave Wally out to do the study, we knew what people wanted. I've been in the town, 36 years, I don't know how long you've been, but I've had my kids go through it. I've been to birthday parties, wedding receptions, Pop Warner football. So what is that building? Someone asked me, or asked us, what's the building used for? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's very simple. Look up the definition of a community building. The old town hall, the Lions Hall, has always been used as a community building. The difference is the Lions were controlling it. They were the ones that were managing it. There's the difference. So when people sit there and say, well, what are you going to use it for? The same thing we've been using it for, the community. So I think that $3 million budget was a wish list. It was on square foot costs when sometimes architects and engineers, if there are any in the room, they'll look up a commercial kitchen and it'll be $150 a square foot. And that's how they come up with a list. We didn't have the time, or we haven't had the time, to narrow that list down and determine what we really want. Do we want a kitchen? Don't we want a kitchen? How much would that kitchen cost if we didn't want the kitchen? So you start to backtrack and you start to bring down the monies. I think it's viable to open it up. Myself personally, I'm going to listen to the people. It'd break my heart if we had to tear it down because that's history. And I think that if we can get by this, put the floor in, use it, yeah, is it going to cost us a little bit more money for heat and air conditioning and things like, yeah, it's going to, but it has been all along. And like I said, the Lions were managing it. The town wasn't. The town owned the building. And then if we can get by this, and once the numbers come in, then look at breaking it further down, and maybe we phase it in. Maybe we have to do the electrical, upgrade the electrical, but not all at once. And that $3 million, that didn't scare me, to be honest with you. If you know the construction, that really didn't scare me at all. I mean, Bob Slater knows. I knew where it was coming from, and it was a pie in the eye type price, and believe me, I don't think it'll become anywhere near that. But that's what I have to say about it, Johnny.
Sounds good, Jimmy.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. You all done now?
All done.
Okay, anything else on the Lions Hall? So we're going to wait for more information, and then we're going to try to figure out what to do and try to put, something that's been here since 1818 that, Ann wants me chained to, and see if we can get that back in some sort of, she's not here. So we can get that back in some sort of shape so that the community can have a place to have birthday parties and things like that, and we can figure that out going forward. Okay, anything else on the budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I'm pleased to have been able to supply the Budget Committee and the Town Council tonight with the 2024 draft warrant. This is as early as I can remember it being presented. A lot will change, as it always does, in terms of the wording. throughout this budget process, but I wanted to just flag a couple of items for everybody's awareness. It has all of the regular warrant article items that we have been discussing, including funding trust funds, capital reserves, what have you. But there are a couple of unusual items this year, and they start with Article number 3. I've been talking with the Utilities Committee and the Town Council for months about a water infrastructure project. I think there's pretty good awareness about this around town. That project, in very summary fashion, is this. St. Gobain has certain obligations within the consent decree. It's really the eastern third of town. They are required to either do point of entry treatment systems or water line extensions within the consent decree, and they need to run a water main down a portion of High Range Road in order to make those connections. We're proposing, and with the town council's consensus, to do a lot more of that project, to do a water main all the way down High Range Road to the vicinity of Route 102. That will form the foundation, really, for a larger public water system in Londonderry, and it will allow us to mitigate PFAS contamination in some of the most heavily contaminated neighborhoods in town that are not within the consent decree. The total cost of that project is roughly $25 million. We are seeking a $10 million grant from the state, and with the town council's consensus, proposing to bring $2 million in Londonderry ARPA money to the project. And then we are anticipating that St. Gobain will contribute somewhere in the neighborhood of $13 million for its work within the consent decree. It is looking like we are going to come up roughly $2 million short in that application for $10 million in grant funding, hence Article number 3. And this is a request to fund a loan through the debt service on a loan through the PFAS Remediation Loan Fund that would allow us to close that delta and do this project. Even with that news, I would suggest that getting a $25 million project for $4 million, only $2 of which would need to be raised through taxation, is a pretty good deal. And that's why it's on here in this form. I also have supplied to everyone the application that we made to the trust fund. It's pretty technical, but it's got some good information in there as well. And I expect to have more information on all of that soon.
Hold on.
Mr. Chair, what are we looking at for an interest rate for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services?
Yes, it's a good question, Councilor Combs, and one of the reasons this loan application makes so much sense is because the interest rate is 1% during construction and 3.5% thereafter. And we can do it there is some flexibility in the term, but the debt service on that loan, depending on the term, would run somewhere, and these are approximate numbers, we're working to refine them, somewhere between $137,000 a year for a longer term loan and $430,000 a year for a shorter term loan.
What's considered long and what's considered short?
Long would be 20 and short would be 5.
I would say we'd probably lean more towards the 20 so that the future users can pay for it. I mean, people who are going to benefit from it should pay for it. That's just a guess. And yes, if you have,
Makes sense to me.
well, anybody else on water? I do understand.
So can I just chime in? I spoke with them today, and so I just want to clarify one of Mike's comments about the 3.5% interest. If for whatever reason this decides to get put off, they reevaluate the interest every August. So once we enter into the agreement, we're stuck at that 3.5. But if we were to put it off for whatever reason, it could potentially increase and go from there.
Understood.
So I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Well, and if Justin Campo is clarifying my comments, then I'm in pretty good company at this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, please understand, we've had discussions about water for 4.5 years now. The number we started at for an entire water system for the town was $200 million. That number doesn't go away. $25 million is the start, and then we go from there. Now, what we have done is we have met with DES, we've had conversations with the state. there are future programs that we can be eligible for after this program.
That's exactly right, Mr. Chairman. And as recently as this week, when I was speaking with the DES commissioner, he suggested the possibility of doing just that, that once this water line main is in, there's the potential to apply to state revolving fund to start to branch out in some of those neighborhoods. So there's more to come, but there's also, more assistance potentially available, as you know, as well.
And just so you're all aware, we're not just relying on staff to do this. Councilor Dunn and I went and met with the DES director and with his staff directly to hear all of this firsthand. So, and we're also leaning on our state legislators, to assist us in this process. We've also had conversations directly with the governor about this. So there's been a lot going on over the last 4.5 years. This is only the beginning. Yes.
Mr. Chair, so Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, going off your $61,000 per penny, that 137 would be about 2.2459 cents per thousand?
I got 2.1 cent. So close, but yes.
We like his number. But.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't too far off. That's awesome.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
This seems to be something that would be incredibly beneficial to the town, but I can see maybe voters kind of looking at that and going, what kind of education are we doing in the community to ensure that this can pass? Because I do think this is a very important project, but I just want to make sure that voters don't get to the booth and kind of balk at it.
Right.
So excellent question. We had this conversation with the commissioner.
Okay.
And the commissioner, and his team has vowed to support us in going to the community and having workshops and them coming down into the community. To be brutally candid, they sent us their presentation, and we're redoing it. Because their presentation is very good if you have a master's degree in engineering and if you have a PhD in whatever water science is. So we're redoing it so that we can present it to the community in a way in which they understand. I mean, it's an excellent question.
Yes.
And I
The
think,
other- oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say the other part of that is, looking at how this affects everyone on a yearly basis. So a $650,000 home, this would be $13.65.
Right. There's a lot more to this, whether or not we wind up having our own water system, whether Londonderry owns it and runs it, whether we work with Manchester Waterworks or with Pennachuck. There's a lot still to talk about. This is just really the beginning.
Yep. Okay.
But I know people have been talking about it for a long time, but government moves slowly. But we're here now.
And Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I may, I wonder what our flexibility is on the wording of the article. You make the point that this is the taxpayers paying for $2 million out of a $25 million project, which is a great value for the town and the first step of what the residents said they wanted to do on the warrant article last year. And so I'd love to get some of that wording in there that this $2 million is only 8% of the project, which is being funded by the state and grant money and wherever those things are.
Yeah.
Because that would make it more palatable when they read it for the first time, if somebody hasn't been watching the meetings and hearing the presentations.
I think that point is really well taken. And I think there's probably a way to build at least some of that in. It is possible that by the time the warrant is finalized, we won't know definitively whether we have the grant in hand. And so there may be a little bit of a delicate balance there.
Okay.
But I think we can certainly signal that this is a larger project and that there are other participants in the funding scheme as well.
So in other words, if we don't get the grant, we won't be building.
Copy that.
Correct.
So,
The other thing for the education, Mr. Chairman, is just this afternoon, I met with Lynn Wiles, the chairman of the Utilities Committee. His group is working on a television program to be taped at the Cable Access Center, where the water subcommittee of that group will have questions for me. And so I'm looking forward to that. We're trying to time it so that it aligns with the budget process and the lead up to the election.
yeah, and just so you're aware, we have had conversations that we're going to have some public forums about this. We did think about running them ourselves, but we're actually considering bringing a professional in to run them so that we can make sure that we are doing a good job communicating to the people. Okay. What am I missing? I'm missing something.
On the water.
No.
I just have two more warrant articles to highlight for everybody. One is Article number 7, that is to create and fund MS4 Capital Reserve Account for legally required water quality monitoring and reporting work. We have the town of Londonderry has what's called a municipal separate storm sewer system permit, or a permit under that requirement. And it basically, it does require us to develop and maintain a comprehensive stormwater management program. That is a function of us discharging water from our system into what's referred to as waters of the United States. That work, it's an unfunded mandate. And we are seeking additional funding in order to meet that legally mandated obligation so that we don't get fined, frankly, by the federal government. That's just the cost of doing business in 2024. And I flag that for everyone's attention because it's new. Article number 14 is the Lions Hall. I think that there is some room for discussion in terms of how to phrase, assuming that something about the Lions Hall makes it to the ballot, I think there's room for discussion about how to phrase what we're doing. I took my best stab at it, essentially to begin repairs and upgrades. Echoing what Councilor Butler said, this will get us started, but certainly there's going to be more required in the future, and we don't want to send the wrong signal there. And then lastly, two others that have come up tonight that are not written into this because I don't think that there's any kind of a consensus or even discussion has occurred whether to, or at least the first one, move something like that to the ballot. That's pickleball. We'll need to develop language for that if that is moved to the ballot. And then the two headcount adds, PD and fire, we'll need to develop appropriate language for those as well. And that's all I have on the budget tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so let me get a feel here. You guys want to do a warrant article for pickleball or not?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes? Yes? Everybody wants to do a warrant article for pickleball?
Yes.
We just need to decide whether or not it's going to be, with or without the dome.
6 or 10
Well,
courts.
6 or 10.
6 or 10, and
6 to
I
10.
agree. I just couldn't take it anymore.
and that can be, it sounds to me, and hopefully the pickleball guys are still here, I think they are, that could be in parts, right? Like if we got 6 approved now, 10 could occur down the road, or does that change things?
No.
I don't know. We can figure that out as we go forward. We need to talk to the rec people, the engineering people. We'll talk. Mr. Tridier is floating around somewhere. He'll tell us whether or not something's possible or not possible. All right, firefighters. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, two half year, then 2 more the next.
I want
like-
the full 4. I think
I'd
the
like
full
to see
4.
a
Well, you're going to get the full 4 in a year.
I think for full
I just-
disclosure,
I think full 4 to start, though.
So what was the difference between the full 4 and the half year?
355, 465, 422, 559.
Which number has to go on the warrant article? The overtime included or not?
Overtime included. So it's either 422 or 559.
It seems like a pretty small difference, 450 to 550.
So can I ask just a question for clarification that I haven't had the chance to ask Justin? So if we phase in the full 4 over the course of a year, does the total for the 4 become part of default?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
I believe we would run into the issue, however, of let's say we do get 4 very qualified individuals day one. I don't think we'd have the authority to hire them until January 1, depending on how the wording of the language goes.
That generally would be, that's how I remember it as well. Okay, so all 4 at once?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
With OT or without OT?
I would suggest that this is just me talking. I would do it for $495K, and not for the 559.
Okay.
That's the way I would do it, if that makes sense to everybody.
What is that, like half the OT? Is that the
Well,
estimate?
because they're going to be in training for part of the year and everything, and they're not even going to be eligible for OT.
Right.
That's my thinking.
Yep.
Okay?
That makes sense.
All right, so, all right, prosecutor. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. I'm talking about
Yes.
warrant articles.
One prosecutor.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
All right, just so that you can start writing warrant articles,
very
because
helpful.
I know you're going to take
Yes.
some time off. I want you to have something to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, God.
I just have a quick comment on Article 14 about the sewer stormwater. Is it possible just to add the amount of the fine into the warrant article as well? So that way people are aware that if we don't do this, we're gonna be fined X amount of dollars.
Oh, you mean number
So
7?
we have to pay something anyway.
Number 7.
That would
Sorry,
be,
7,
that would
yeah.
be, that would be a question for Justin to talk with DRA about. DRA has some strange restrictions about how much advocacy you can do.
DRA does not
and-
give us a lot of,
So they also may be concerned that it's misleading, that somebody may see that fine number and think that that's what you're going for.
Oh,
that's what happens.
And as
DRA
Mike was
looks
saying,
at it,
there's-
then the Secretary of State looks at it, our lawyer looks at it, and then we get to be told what we're allowed to do.
okay, got it.
Right.
That's just sort of how it works.
Yeah, and as well as the assistant town managers reminded me, the fine changes based on what you fail to do. So
Oh,
it would be
great.
hard to, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's a good suggestion. It's something to talk about when we are
We-
talking about these articles.
Are we done with the budget discussion? Because I have one last thing to say before we move to these nice people who have been waiting.
Can we talk about the library?
Do you want to talk about the library?
Yeah.
You didn't get enough on the library tonight?
No. That was just comment.
Wow.
That was just comment.
Of course, you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay. Would it be up for a warrant article to do the Gmail? Thank you, Gmail. Is that something that we can do?
I don't think it
So
is.
the
Something
voters-
they have to propose
They do.
As a warrant
Okay.
article.
as a warrant article. It's not, so here's the whole thing is, they're a separate form of government. Right, you basically have two levers. You know, give them money or don't give them money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really what it comes down to. So, you know, if they wanted to take the position of that they wanted to pull that out of their budget, even though they already signed the contract for it,
Right.
and put it on a warrant article, that would be their decision.
Okay.
So we can't dictate that. You know, we can have more discussions about the library and about their funding.
Yeah.
I don't think, after listening to all the comments, I don't know if we're prepared for that tonight.
Right.
But we can have, if the budget committee wants to have discussions about their funding, or the council wants to have discussions about it, that's something we can talk about.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
My only other question about the library, and I'm an advocate of the GMOX program, I think it would be a good fit, I was curious if we got any movement on our questions about the merit increases.
Yes.
That would be a funding conversation. So I would suggest that if you still want those answers, I would suggest that the library director comes back here at the next meeting during the budget workshop and answers those questions.
And it's possible they haven't had a meeting of the trustees since our last.
They have a meeting Wednesday, right?
Yeah, John, I was just gonna say, we have a meeting on Wednesday, that will be discussed at that meeting.
Okay, cool.
So we'll be able, either I or the chair of the trustees will get back to you.
I'm not going for, heavy hand, don't fund the library. I'm just seeking, to see if we can bring that in line with the other exempt employees in the town.
Yes, absolutely, and it has to be discussed with the trustees, the chair is aware of it, the co-chair are aware of it, so it'll be discussed at the Wednesday meeting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, thank you.
Good? Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, so I have one thing to say before we move off this. All right. Tax bills are late. Department of Revenue gave us our tax rate number today. We are double and triple checking it, because it would not be the first time that we got a tax rate and it was wrong. So we are making sure that it is right. And the tax bills will be going out forthwith, probably, hopefully by the end of the week at the absolute latest. Right? People, when you go to the ballot and you vote yes, your taxes go up. That's the way it works. Also understand the way valuations are done. So several years ago, we used to reevaluate the town every 5 years. And what would happen is we would have these spikes up and down in valuations. When we had these spikes up and down in valuations, the commercial property owners would file abatements every chance they got. The argument they would make in Superior Court would be is they would base against our up and down fluctuating rates. And every time we went with them on an abatement, we lost, which means we had to give them money. So we changed the policy and went to a 2-year valuation so that we could stabilize valuations. Valuations are based on April 1st. That's right. Today it is December 4th. The valuation in the town was based on April 1st. I know things have changed, and we're going to evaluate the town again, not this April 1st, but the following April 1st. So what you see is what will fluctuate over a 2-year period and not a 5-year period, and protects us from losing commercial revenue on abatements because we're not keeping a balanced rate. Just so everyone understands, I know there's a lot of people who speculate on, in social media about what we do around valuations. We are on a 2-year cycle. Most towns in New Hampshire are still on a 5-year cycle. We are trying to stabilize valuations and not have the ups and downs, just so everyone understands. Any questions? Okay.